Are you familiar with combiners?
Alright, should be
You
back to
know,
business
bots
here.
like the Constructicons and Devastator, the aerial bots and Superion, or hey, what about the Glacial bots and Glacial Lord? Wait, no. Yeah, my bad. That last one was just a fan's project. But really, at its most basic level, combiner just means a bunch of smaller robot dudes coming together to make one bigger dude. Or sometimes just a thing. And that was exactly the case with the very first combiner to show up in Transformers. Ever. Got any idea who that was? Here, let me show you a picture. In any kind of war, it's not just about who's got the biggest guns. It's about who actually knows what's going on. You need eyes on the ground, intel coming in, someone figuring out where the enemy is and what the hell they are up to. That's reconnaissance. It's the quiet part of the fight, but it's the reason anything else works at all. Because if you're just charging into battle blind, you're not brave, you're dumb. And when you strip all of that down to its most basic form, reconnaissance is really just about capturing information. Sometimes as simple as stopping for a second, taking a picture. And with that in mind, I guess it's no surprise that in a world that's more than meets the eye, full of robots in disguise turning into jets, cars, and, well, Walkmans, hey, a bot's got a groove too, you know. You've got at least one dude, or is that three, who turns into a camera. Reflector was right there from the jump, part of the original cast of the 1984 cartoon. He's in on the whole deal. Decepticons tracking down the Autobot Ark, crashing into a volcano, taking a few million years off, and then waking up in the 80s like nothing happened and getting straight back to work. Doing his, reconnaissance thing. Whether he's giving Thundercracker something to point and shoot with, or quietly helping snag some top secret access codes, Reflector's just in the background doing Reflector things. And while his actual job on the battlefield didn't exactly scream for attention, Reflector still managed to burn himself into our collective childhood memory for one very specific reason. He was the only Transformer in the show that was actually 3. Now, sure, design-wise, he wasn't exactly blowing anyone away. Kind of basic, a little plain.
Verdict scribe.
Wasn't the point.
I see the chat and stream, but I don't hear chatbot.
Together, talking together, always in sync, gave him this weird, slightly
Verdict scribe.
cool vibe.
Oh, wait, there's chatbot.
And then you throw in the voice of Chris Latta. I mean, that's basically Starscream in triplicate. Yes, please. That being said, cool as the whole 3-in-1 thing was, there is another reason Reflector stood out from the rest of that original cast.
Verdict scribe. She just didn't say your test.
Back then, after watching all that robot-on-robot chaos on TV, the next move was obvious. You drag your parents to the nearest toy store and try to bring some of that action home. But if you walked in there hoping to recreate some reflective triple team action, yeah, you were in for a world of disappointment. Because out of that entire first season lineup, Reflector was the odd one out. No toy. Nada on the shelves. I mean, aside from that random yellow crane truck hauler, who maybe could have been an Autobot, Reflector was the only character from that first wave who just didn't make the cut. Which of course leads to the question of why? Because the reality is there actually was a Reflector toy, or at least a toy that Reflector was based on. It just wasn't available in the USA. The toy that served as the basis for Reflector was originally known as Camera Robo MC05, part of Takara's then new Microman line, specifically its Micro Change subseries. Launched in 1983, Micro Change had a simple but very cool premise. Every day, 1/1 scale household objects and electronics that transformed into robots, all designed to be compatible with their 10cm Microman figures. Camera Robo MC05 itself was based on the Canon AV-1, along with its sister model, the AE-1, a popular 35mm SLR camera produced at the time. And Takara didn't hold back. This thing came with a simulated telephoto lens and an attachable flash cube. It made the toy appealing not just to kids, but even to photography enthusiasts, I'd imagine. And maybe, I guess, triplets? Speaking of which, it's worth noting that the whole 3 robots into 1 camera idea wasn't there from the start. Early design sketches and resin prototypes shown that Camera Robo was originally conceived as a single transforming robot. But the engineering required to turn a realistic SLR camera into a single robot figure proved rather difficult back in the day, and so Takara did a pivot and split the design into 3 separate robots. MC05A, Micro Shutter, intended for high-speed offense with dimensional teleportation capabilities. MC05B, Micro Finder, designed for dimensional interception and early detection of hostile entities. And MC05C, Micro Winder, rounding out the trio and providing the structural mass for the camera's grip and winding mechanism. This resulted in not only a modular, puzzle-like design that created a more cohesive alternate mode, but also introduced a unique team-based play pattern. Throw in a functional, spring-loaded missile launcher built into the flash cube, metal parts, and even a fictitious but realistic-sounding camera brand, Microx, and you've got basically a winner. So with all those design elements in place, it's easy to see how Camera Robo MC05 became a popular release in Japan. And that's exactly why when Hasbro came a-calling for Takara's transforming robots, MC05 was quickly drafted into the Decepticon ranks as part of that first wave headed to the west. Which also explains why the newly christened espionage expert Reflector was prominently featured in that first Transformers miniseries.
Alright, that should be sufficient.
Actually, that was it. That's it. So, as far as retail stores went, what happened? Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward and unfortunately not as exciting as you might hope. Despite the toy's unique design, which would technically make it the first official combiner in the Transformers line, Reflector was passed over for a mainstream release for one specific reason. According to Hasbro's Vice President of Research and Development in 1983, George Dunsey, corporate executives focused testing deemed the figure not interesting in both modes. The thinking was that on a crowded
Verdict scribe.
with brightly colored
Bless.
cars,
Thank you.
intimidating fighter jets, and even a gun, a realistic, blocky camera just wouldn't grab the attention of the kiddies. So while MC05 was already a retail hit in Japan, allowing Reflector to exist there as a standard mainline Transformers release, things played out very differently in the US. Reflector was essentially benched, and after his early appearances, he was gradually phased out of the cartoon as well. That said, it wasn't exactly a case of here today and gone tomorrow. Reflector, or at least multiple bots that looked like him, kept popping up in random episodes. In universe, these were collectively referred to as photons, basically Decepticon rank and file, and when needed, convenient test subjects for experimental space bridges. Although, if you ask me, a cooler explanation would have been the supposedly originally planned idea of these additional reflectors being clones generated by a single source, kind of like a multiple man setup, which would also explain this scene in the cartoon where multiple copies get blasted back into the original host. Reflector's last known sightings come in the 1986 The Transformers, the movie, where he's basically seen from behind during the Battle of Autobot City, and then again shortly after during Starscream's coronation. Honestly, credit what it's due, at least he made it out alive. I mean, we already have enough debates over Cyclonus and whether he came from Skywarp or Bombshell. I mean, it is Skywarp, by the way. Now, picture throwing Reflector into that mess. Although he would have made pretty solid fodder for the sweeps. And speaking of 1986, while Reflector was wrapping up his run in the cartoon, that same year ironically saw his toy finally released in the US. With a twist. Instead of a standard retail release, he showed up as a mail-away exclusive tied to the animated movie. So yeah, in order to sell a toy they had previously labeled as not interesting in both modes, Hasbro leaned into exclusivity. Reflector was offered as a premium through 4 different promotional leaflets packed into the Transformers boxes between 1986 and 1987, with dramatic headlines like "Inside, a Transformer not sold in any store." And to get one, kids had to mail in proof of purchase robot points cut from toy boxes and cards, throw in a bit of moolah, and wait for their very own Decepticon espionage agent to arrive at their doorstep. It was actually smart, adding a layer of mystique that a regular retail release probably wouldn't have pulled off. Along with that, Hasbro gave Reflector a proper tech spec profile. See and you can know. Know and you can destroy. Described as someone who loves observing everything. Terrain, structures, even his own teammates' mistakes. And isn't above blackmailing fellow Decepticons if it benefits him. Reflector is equipped with advanced infrared vision that can record in darkness, through camouflage, and over long distances. And in camera mode can unleash a blinding flash powerful enough to disorient enemies for up to 15 seconds. Interestingly, while the tech spec treats Reflector as a single entity, the instruction sheet actually names the 3 separate components individually. Spectro,
Spyglass, and Viewfinder.
Which is kind of weird, but it fits, especially since while the cartoon portrayed them as nearly identical, the original toy gave you 3 distinctly different robots. That being said, it would take a little bit more time before those individual bots would get any personality. Now, while Reflector was pretty much non-existent in the original Marvel comics, aside from a quick background appearance of one of them lying around ass-kicked post-battle, he finally got more love in the early 2000s with Dreamwave Productions, which featured Reflector as a subgroup in its More Than Meets the Eye profile series, giving each robot a more defined character and role. Viewfinder is the leader, and easily by far the most despicable of the group. He thrives on spotting others' mistakes and exploiting them, especially through blackmail, and takes full advantage of their assignment monitoring Cybertron's surveillance systems. Spyglass is completely obsessed with gathering information, always eager to dig into weaknesses and happily backing up Viewfinder's schemes, even if it means dragging Spectro along. Speaking of which, Spectro is the simplest of the 3, more of a follower than a thinker, quick to shift blame and loyal only as long as it keeps him out of trouble. Together, Viewfinder, Spyglass, and Spectro share an incredible eye for detail and an unmatched ability to track
Okay, those go in there.
making them collectively
And that is the backpack.
reconnaissance units in the Decepticon ranks. And
Not
speaking
bad.
of effectiveness, you know
Okay.
one of the simplest but most effective ways to help my channel out? Just keep watching. That's it. Longer watching time is one
Lord
of the best
Bothy
ways
Builder.
to make a channel like
Looks
mine
good.
great.
Okay.
So if you're enjoying this story, when it's
Another one again.
Verdicts scribe.
watch another.
Imagine being a Decepticon named after the most boring part of a bicycle.
Let's make the head. Actually, well, Let's not make the head right now.
But even
I don't
with
feel like doing the
these
eyes.
personalities in place, Viewfinder, Spyglass, and Spectro don't actually get a
I
whole
should
bunch
prepare
of
for that ahead of time.
They
It's my fault.
are a supposedly inferior version of
Let's make the shoulders.
Cybertron, working
I'm skipping ahead.
as a surveillance unit monitoring the planet.
No. Yeah.
Despite all that supposed attention to detail and data processing, they still get caught off guard and taken out by Starscream. So, yeah, that didn't last long. If you want to see Reflector 2 loosely, jump over to the IDW comics. Here, they go back to that classic clone look speaking in triplicate again, and show up as part of Megatron's invasion of Earth in All Hail Megatron.
Oh goodness, it's all clear plastic.
Opens with the Decepticons running wild, Autobots missing, cities getting leveled, humans not faring too well. With Reflector playing their part
Oh gosh.
in a particularly unsettling way.
The eyes are clear plastic.
Like fragile playthings, and
That's gonna make this a lot more difficult.
they come apart. Yeah, not exactly subtle. Anyway, after the
Yeah, so
Decepticons are eventually defeated, the
for context, I really don't like using the stickers for the eyes. I like to paint them. The fact that they are clear plastic makes that, I mean, in and of itself, it's not a bad thing. But it's going to be hard to... they're so small. And actually kind of, with the light pipe, with the light clear plastic, let the light through, is that why it's clear? Or why is it clear? I'm going to save the head for another time. So I don't feel like dealing with that right now. Sometimes I build bottom up, sometimes I follow the order of the instructions. Instructions will usually have you build top down, or body and then head, arms, legs, which is the case this time. So I'm going to move on to the shoulders here. And then save the head for next time, which will probably be, maybe I can squeeze in a midweek stream, I don't know, we'll find out. Otherwise, it'll be next Saturday.
Lord Bothy Builder. I always do full inner frame first, if no frame I go feet up V-fin last.
Usually I do that, especially with a high grade, but right now I'm just feeling like I'm just following the direction, order of the instructions, except for this. So, shoulders it is. Oh, this kit being made up of parts of other kits means that some of the runners are weird too. A1, B... D, E, got my C's. Okay, 2 C's and an E. And my polycaps. Oh, and I need D. Need the D after all.
Verdicts Scribe. Yeah, I usually just use the eye decals, I'm too lazy to actually paint. However, I have a 3D printer that can print with multiple colors, I could look into printing Gunpla bits.
Interesting. See, normally the eyes are something I challenge myself to paint, because I hate stickers that go over 3D sculpt 3D parts. Stickers over flat spaces are fine, but if they go over a 3D part, then you have to do extra work to get them to, you know, match the shape, which I don't like. I'm not a fan of that. I prefer just paint it in at that point. And eyes especially, since they're such a key part of the design, I always try to paint. But so we'll come back to that next time. Do these shoulders, and maybe depending how long we're here, because I'm gonna wrap it up soon. We'll do these shoulders and call it a night. I apologize for the off and on nature of this stream. Technical issues and just etc.
Sent out by Shockwave on another mission, which again does not go well at all. They crash in some hostile planet and Viewfinder is killed off immediately, impaled by a huge shard of glass against his control chair. Spectro and Spyglass survive, but eventually run into the Autobot survivalist / wild boy, Wheelie, and his alien friend, who've been working on an escape ship. Thinking they've got the upper hand, the two Decepticons hijack the ship by threatening Wheelie's friend. But Wheelie say he ain't here to play, and secretly sabotages the ship before handing it over. Sure enough, it launches, then promptly explodes, taking the last two pieces of reflector with it. Talk about an aborted escape. Speaking of which, another aborted version of Reflector was supposed to show up in the series Transformers Animated, but those plans were scrapped due to time constraints. But see, it wasn't just an idea. They already had character designs ready, including a new Cybertronian tank armed with a Photon P-34 cannon. Fortunately, that wouldn't be the end of Reflector in animation. Well, sort of, because what might be the most poignant take on Reflector is not exactly him. Let me explain. In the Netflix series Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy from 2020, we meet a guy who looks a whole lot like Reflector, but isn't. And if all those scrappy looking scars on his face don't give it away, he's unfortunately named Scrap Face, a clone of Reflector and a low-level Decepticon grunt. An expendable one. Just how expendable? Well, enough to be imprisoned by Shockwave for simply existing, and then drained of his energy to power whatever new scheme is in the works. Scrapface gets rescued by Autobots led by Elita 1, and that's where things start to shift. He helps lead a group of freed Decepticons to return the favor and form an uneasy alliance. From there, you see him start to question everything, especially after realizing how disposable
Merchimus calculation 6WJK. Cheap viewers streambo. Remove the space, add 2T off JC.
Nope.
Loyalty fades. Instead, he starts fighting based on something closer to fairness, respect. The idea that maybe it matters how you treat the bots around you, even if they're Autobots. Eventually, he fully commits to the resistance, siding with Elita 1 and setting his sights on taking down Shockwave. His story wraps up during the assault on the Kaon Arena. Once again, after getting captured and nearly harvested with energy, Scrapface escapes with the others. But the explosives planted earlier go off unexpectedly, and the arena is destroyed, and Scrapface goes down with it.
I don't remember this at all.
Not exactly a happy ending, but I'd like to think that it at least serves as a pretty important lesson for Shockwave to reflect on. That loyalty isn't something you take for granted, or toy around with. Speaking of which, let's talk toys. After the initial Reflector released in Japan in 1985 and the US mail-away version in 1986, the first modern Reflector figure we got
Verdicts scribe.
an accessory.
Reported and blocked.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Tiny little dude packed in with the early 30s scrap mail in 2014. And while he wasn't much, I'll give him this. While he didn't come in triplicate, he was a triple changer, going from robot to camera to a weapon for scrap mail to wield. If you want a Reflector in triplicate, your very first modern option would be a 2016 BotCon exclusive 3-pack. This was basically a retooled version of the Legends class Combiner War Shockwave, with a new reflector head. And while they each transformed into individual shockwave-ish Cybertronian ships, remember kiddies, no guns. If you tried really hard, you could kinda, sorta fudge a unified Cybertronian camera thing. Anyway, in 2019, Hasbro finally got it right by giving us Refractor. Yeah, they apparently lost a trademark to the name. A single deluxe class offering from the Siege line that once again transformed into some Cybertronian
Verdicts scribe.
aircraft thing.
Did Scrapface earn his name, or was his mom just really mean? For that matter, how are Cybertronians born?
Okay, that second one is pretty complicated, actually. There's probably a Chris McFeely video about that. I'll circle back to that. Scrapface, I'm not sure how he got his name. Probably in universe. Came about after being facially damaged. I don't know. He was not a very important character. What the fuck?
2019, Hasbro finally got it right by giving us Refractor. Yeah, they apparently lost a trademark to the name. A single deluxe class offering from the Siege line that once again transformed into some Cybertronian artillery hovercraft thing. And a secret third mode. A box. You see where I'm going with this, right? In another stroke of marketing genius, Hasbro gave us a basic deluxe toy packed with just the
Verdicts scribe.
that we
It is after
had to
1.
buy 3
I'm
times
starting to fade.
in order to
I'ma hit the sack soon.
That's understandable. I'm done as soon as I finish these shoulders.
our very first proper modern take on Reflector. And this toy was so nice, Hasbro had to do it twice, releasing a special exclusive 3-pack that same year in the original toy colors, with even more accessories to get that classic camera looking just right. Oh, and poor little Scrapface got a recolor of this mold as well, albeit without a scrapped face. Nothing an X-Acto knife can't fix, am I right? Just kidding. And finally, in 2023, Takara Tomy, in partnership with Canon, gave us something special. A unique take on Reflector that transformed into a fully licensed Canon EOS R5 digital camera, which was one hell of a cool looking alt mode. Unfortunately, the robot mode was, a bit chunky. I
Whole
guess
ass
those
camera for a
bougie car
chest.
designers were onto something when they figured out you couldn't turn a camera into a single cool looking robot. Oh well. While the alt mode gave off some masterpiece-ish vibes, for now I'd say leave a true masterpiece Reflector to who else but third-party companies, who've collectively given us a decent number of options. First up, kind of an exception, third-party but definitely not masterpiece, would be Perfect Effects PE11 Scouting Force X, a tiny legend scale set released in 2011. Absolutely chock full of accessories, making for a pretty fun set. That being said, the first MT style reflector set we got was the MTRM07 Visualizers by Make Toys, released in 2015 as part of their Remaster series. It's often praised for having one of the cleanest and most cohesive camera modes, although I think the individual heads look a bit off, more like they're wearing medieval toy caps than actual helmets. Fans Toys FT11 Spotter followed soon after in 2016. This was one of Fans Toys' earliest releases, and it shows. They're hella clunky and awkward to transform, especially when forming the camera, which should be as simple as sticking 3 boxes together. A process Fans Toys somehow managed to make excruciating.
I missed
How
it.
do I know? Well, this is the version I own, because despite its age and obvious flaws, I still think it's the best looking set out there, in my opinion. Quick side tangent, I just wanted to share that this was actually the first Transformer that got my wife's attention when I displayed it in Ultimate on the shelf. Not for anything, but she's a professional photographer and thought it looked cool. So it's nice to know that this passed the photographer's eye test. And finally, we have Keith's Fantasy Club, or KFC's, EAVI Metal Phase 5A Opti-Clones, also released in 2016, which, while not my personal choice, looks to be a pretty serviceable set with great-looking bot and camera modes. That said, I honestly couldn't tell you how good they are, or bad, since KFC is kind of known for their inconsistencies from release to release.
Alright.
Still, with Spotter fetching pretty high prices on the secondary market these days,
3,
options
4, and
are
12.
always welcome. And speaking of always being welcome, how about an old war story from a charming old coot named Cup? If you want to hear more about this grizzled old warrior, I've got his story right here. Or if you want my latest episode, I've got that over here. Either way, thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from you in the comments below. Have you had time to reflect on Reflector today? Go ahead and tell me your story.
12? Oh, okay.
Verdicts scribe. Good night, dude.
Night,
Gotta
verdicts.
take care of laundry and wrangle a cat, then pass TF out for about 8 hours.
Alright. Night verdicts, thank you for coming out. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Before we begin, thank you very much to I Love Armada Hotshot, and I mean it, for pitching in over on Ko-fi. You can make me say it, you can't make me mean it. But weirdly enough, yeah, I do love Armada Hotshot. Where would I be without him? Yes, but thank you very much for contributing. Thank you very much for chipping into the channel, helping to keep it going and the daily content coming. I'm once again caught up on shout-outs. You shout-out streak me again. Oh my god. Okay, we're not even getting into it. I'm not even tempting the beast. We have leaks to talk about. So, I've said this before. I continue to say it with this. Leaks like this generally do not come a few at a time. Typically, when we get leaks, they come like a little bit at a time, but eventually the dam has burst. And the way this is being written on TFW 2005, it does make me feel like we definitely have a lot more on the way. So, I was going to wait until all of it was out, but I also don't want to make a 2-hour video. And I don't want this to go too cold. So we do need to talk about it right now, and if there's more leaks, we'll do a part 2 when those drop. So, we're going to talk about what we can talk about at the moment. So we're going to start off with the brand new Retro G1 toys that will be Walmart exclusives. And this is where things get weird, because one of them is exhaust.
What?
Now, you're scratching your head. We already had an exhaust from the current Wheeljack mold. It's right there on the screen. You know, I feel like anyone who wanted exhaust has already gotten exhaust. So, according to JT Prime, this is going to be more accurate to the original Diaclone toy. I don't know how that's possible without, 1, infringing on a copyright, and 2, branding a toy for kids with a cigarette brand. But I'm assuming they're figuring out some way of redecoing it that will get past legal and will actually, you know, still represent the original characters somewhat. The thing to remember is that this one was marketed as a mercenary. So technically never came out a Decepticon like Exhaust typically is. Okay, fair. I don't know if I want to rebuy Exhaust just for the sake of changing his faction symbol, but considering they did absolutely nothing with the mercenary faction, I might actually be, depending on the deco, I might be down for this, because I hate that inconsistency in the collection. I hate that weird silver beard face that like 3 toys used and then they just dropped the whole thing. Oh well. So yeah, we've got a new one on the way, but it's head scratchy, right? Because it's the first one that's not a mini bot. You know, so I assume they're just going to make this like the toy accurate exclusive line. Like if we just like for whatever figure we want to do, we're just going to make it like the retro G1 toy version of itself. Sure. Okay. Then explain the second one on the list, Bug Bite. We are really just throwing anything into any line at this point and justifying it somehow. So once again, we've had a modern Bug Bite toy. Once again, it was branded as a mercenary. So, okay, fine. For completely deleting the mercenaries from our collection, might as well roll out another Bug Bite. The fascinating thing here is we have so many more to pick from now. The original Bug Bite toy was actually a redeco of the Bumblebee version of the Earthrise Cliff Jumper toy. Because for some reason, and this has to have to do with the Volkswagen license, only Bumblebee seems to be capable of being the Volkswagen Beetle. Like Bumblebee and Goldbug, which is, you know, just Bumblebee again. I don't know if they only want it branded to their biggest character, or if they don't want it to be repainted into a bad guy. For whatever reason, we've never had that mold used for anything else. I'm still waiting for Glyph. Someone, anyone, please. Point being, we have other Bumblebees to pick from. We have the 86 to pick from. We have this. We have the new one, the Devastation Bumblebee, that has notes of the classics Bumblebee design. So it'd be a great opportunity to do the one that's on screen right now. We have no idea which mold it's using. We just know that there is a Bug Bite on the way in the retro G1 line for a character who was never in G1. Congratulations. I can't even like compare to like there is a like the original Minibot version, like the original eHobby repaint one, because the last Bug Bite seemed to clear that necessity pretty well. I don't see the need for the exhaust either, but hey, here we are. Okay, so just doing anything they want in retro G1 now. Okay, whatever. The big story to this first round of leaks is we're getting a completely new wave of Age of the Primes beyond what we originally thought. So, one extra wave that we weren't expecting. And there are some interesting things in here worth talking about for various reasons. The first one that made fans happy, and I'm sure a lot of you are going to be overjoyed to see, we're getting a new Alpha Bravo. I think when we saw that, like, we're redoing the combiners, so guess what? All your extra partners from the original line, all of them are gone. You know, we added members to the aerial bots and Stunticons, but we're just going to ignore them for now. We're just going to push them over the side. They don't need to be here, right? Like, we don't need to bother with them, right? But for whatever reason, I don't know if this is just like the little bit he had in IDW 1.0 or whatever, or just people just like the idea of a helicopter in the aerial bots. We are, like, for some reason fans took to it. So we are getting a brand new one, which is really, really neat to see. I'm presuming he's going to be compatible with Superion. I presume he's going to be an ARM, right? So, cool to see. Cool to see. I mean, I like Alpha Bravo as a design. I'm not going to complain about getting another one. Funny, we're getting a really weird one in Guzzle. The Voyager class Guzzle, no less. I feel like Hasbro really is trying to check as many boxes as they can. Like, Last Wave is such a good place to just get a toy out that might otherwise be too obscure or too weird to get away with if it was like Wave 1 or 2 that every store was going to stock. But Last Wave stuff is typically the less stock of any wave because most stores are overflowing with all of the stuff from previous waves that didn't sell. So, yeah, this is a good chance to get something like this out. So, Guzzle is on the list. Such a funny one to do. I'm not complaining, but it's a weird one to throw in. Now, I know there's going to be some obvious discussion going on. You're wondering why I'm not talking about certain talking points. Give it a bit. We'll get there. One of the most important things that's listed out of any of the leaks so far is a G2 Wild Rider. We've been waiting a hot minute. It was the Toxitron collection. It was over a year ago that we got the last piece. And, we're just now getting Wild Rider out there. So when Takara announced that they were doing a box set for G2 Menasor, Mark Marr was very quick to jump on his Instagram and go, "Don't worry, we know you've been taking the slow road to G2 Menasor. We're going to finish it. It's on the table. Do not worry." So we have a listing that confirms that Wild Rider is on the way out. That completes the deluxes. At that point, it's just all about getting that one Commander class toy out again, some way, somewhere.
Let's put it on Pulse.
I'm one of those that's just like, Amazon's gotta want it, right? Amazon will sell it on Hasbro Pulse exclusively. Do a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive. You haven't done an exclusive with them in ages. Jeez. Just whatever it takes. Just get it out there. Make it exclusive to Entertainment Earth, where you can use the link in the description below to go save on toys and help the channel at the same time. That's shilling. But no, I'm happy to see it's actually happening. We have some movement. That's good. Good to see for once. More Combiner stuff. So, one of the names on there for another deluxe listing is Skyguard. And a lot of people immediately jumped to this being Sky Gary, because Sky Gary, Skyguard, okay, it's a little bit similar. Gary's a weird name to give it for an American release, so I could imagine Guard being a good replacement name. However, it's a deluxe, and if they're going to do Sky Gary, it would at the very least scale to a Star Convoy or a Star Saber, depending on which version of scaling they wanted to adhere to. Either way, not really what we needed. So that was off track. That was wrong. Really, it's a replacement name for Skyfall. We were told that next year we would be getting a frame for Nexus Prime, and now we actually have confirmation that we're getting actual individual members as well. So I was really kind of expecting them to box set the whole thing. Here's your 4 limbs and a frame sans Silverbolt, so you can just slot in your Nexus Prime without worrying. But that is apparently not what will be happening here. We're getting individual repaint releases at the tail end of Age of the Primes, and it's starting off with this guy. I'm really curious to see if they're going to retool any of the existing aerial bots to actually match this vehicle mode, because none of the aerial bots naturally fit this design, not even close. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious how the approach is going to be for this one. But nice to see they're actually upholding that agreement. And also, yeah, Breakaway is also in the list. So we know we're going to get at least some of them relatively soon. I would love to say we'll see these sometime soon to know, because I'd really like to see how they plan to do this. Probably not going to be translucent like the originals. Takara doesn't like them using that for everything anymore, because they acknowledge that it makes the toys more fragile. But this, it's expected, but it's nice to know, yes, it is actually on the way. Still, not too bad. And this one will fit an aerial box much faster. This is that's an easy one.
Alright, and there is my torso and shoulders.
Some of the bigger surprises so far in the leaks. We're getting a brand new Cyber Shark, aka...
That will do it for tonight, folks. Thank you for coming out to Snap Together Saturday. I apologize for the interruptions. I will be back maybe midweek. If not, then I'll be back next Saturday to continue building this. So until I see you next, thank you for coming out. Have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Have fun. Goodbye.